Secret Wars, 1984. We start in 1984, and we start with an origin story, not just for one character, but for the entire concept of the crossover event itself. A cosmic being called the Beyonder, essentially a god who had never interacted with the physical universe before, became fascinated by the concept of desire. He wanted to observe the ultimate battle between good and evil, so he built a planet called Battleworld, grabbed Marvel's biggest heroes, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and their greatest villains, Doctor Doom, Magneto, Galactus, the Absorbing Man, and dropped them all there. His instruction was simple: fight. Dr. Doom, in classic Doom fashion, took it further than anyone expected.
Doom shall claim his rightful place.
He stole the Beyonder's power. For a moment, Victor Von Doom held the power of a god. He could have remade the entire universe in his image, and he almost did, before his own self-doubt made him reverse it all. Here's why this matters beyond the story itself. Secret Wars was created to sell a toy line. Mattel wanted a single product line with all the major Marvel heroes and villains. Writer Jim Shooter turned a marketing mandate into a story that invented the modern crossover event format. And one thing slipped through almost unnoticed. Spider-Man, messing around with alien tech on Battleworld, created what he thought was a new suit. Black and white, sleek, clean. It clung to him like a second skin. It was alive. It was a symbiote. And it would eventually become Venom. Everything about Secret Wars feels simple now, because it invented the template that every event after it copies. Infinity Gauntlet, 1991. Jump forward to 1991, and Marvel asks a question that no superhero comic had ever seriously asked before. What if the villain just won? Thanos, the Mad Titan, had spent years collecting the 6 Infinity Gems, each one granting control over a fundamental aspect of existence: mind, soul, space, time, power, reality. Together, assembled into the Infinity Gauntlet, they made him the most powerful being in the universe. And the first thing he did with that power was snap his fingers and erase half of all life in existence. Every living thing, gone in an instant. Why? Because Thanos was in love. Not with a person, with death itself, the physical embodiment of mortality. He did it as a gift. Heroes across the Marvel Universe, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, crumbled to dust. The ones who survived rallied, led by Adam Warlock, alongside cosmic beings like Galactus and Eternity. None of them could touch Thanos at full power. He was playing with them. It was only his ego that undid him. He ascended to a higher plane of existence and briefly left the gauntlet unattended, at which point Nebula, his granddaughter, grabbed it. Then Warlock reclaimed it. Then the Living Tribunal declared no single being could wield all 6 gems. The universe was restored, but the lessons stayed permanent. The Infinity Gems are the most dangerous objects in Marvel cosmology. Every story involving them since, including what you saw in the MCU, exists because of what Jim Starlin built here. This was also the first time Marvel made you feel like even Earth's greatest heroes were completely helpless. That feeling, that's what made it iconic. Onslaught, 1996. 1996, and this one begins with a question. What happens when the most powerful telepath on Earth loses his temper? During a battle, Magneto used his powers to rip the adamantium from Wolverine's bones. In a rage, Professor Xavier, the man who always chose restraint, always chose mercy, psychically reached into Magneto's mind and shut it off completely, wiped him. But in that moment of pure anger, something happened that Xavier couldn't control. The darkest parts of Magneto's psyche fused with Xavier's own suppressed darkness. All the pain, all the resentment, all the rage he'd buried beneath decades of hope. That fusion took on a life of its own. It called itself Onslaught. Part psionic, part magnetic, part sheer rage. Onslaught was one of the most powerful beings the Marvel Universe had ever seen. He captured Franklin Richards and the Hulk, kidnapping their limitless energy, and then marched on everything. The X-Men couldn't stop him. The Avengers couldn't stop him. What finally worked was desperation. The non-mutant heroes, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, physically threw themselves into Onslaught's psionic energy form and destroyed him from the inside out. They were vaporized, gone, or so it seemed. Franklin Richards, being a child who didn't fully understand loss, used his reality-warping powers to create a pocket universe where all the dead heroes were reborn, living new lives, unaware of their real history. This became the Heroes Reborn imprint, where the Avengers and Fantastic Four were relaunched under Jim Lee.
Avengers Disassembled, 2004. The Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, had been Marvel's most powerful magic user for decades, and she'd spent years using her reality-warping abilities to create a false life, 2 children, a family, a sense of peace. When she finally understood that her children weren't real, that she'd manufactured them from nothing, she broke completely. What followed was the most efficient destruction of a superhero team in comics history. She possessed the Vision and turned him into a weapon. He crashed a Quinjet directly into Avengers Mansion. She conjured a Kree invasion out of nothing. She-Hulk went berserk and tore Vision apart with her bare hands. Hawkeye died in an explosion. She killed Scott Lang. In 3 issues, the team that had existed since 1963 was finished. The mansion was a ruin. The roster was shattered, and Brian Michael Bendis relaunched everything as New Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Luke Cage, Spider-Woman. A team that felt nothing like the classic lineup, and everything like where comics were going. House of M, 2005. 1 year after Disassembled. Wanda Maximoff is still out there, still unstable, and now the Avengers and X-Men are faced with a decision no superhero should have to make. Do they put her down? Before they can decide, Quicksilver, her brother, begged her to act first. So she did. She rewrote all of reality. Every hero woke up in a new world, one where mutants were the dominant species and Magneto ruled as king. Peter Parker was married to Gwen Stacy, famous, beloved. Wolverine remembered every year of his life. Steve Rogers had never gone into the ice. Everyone got exactly what they'd always wanted most. But Wolverine's memories also included the truth. He remembered the real world. And piece by piece, the illusion collapsed around the heroes until they stood in front of Wanda and demanded she fix it. Her brother's face, her father's expectation, generations of pain. She said 3 words: no more mutants. Reality rewrote itself again, and when the dust settled, the global mutant population had dropped from millions to 198 people. Those 3 words defined X-Men comics for the next 15 years. Every story about extinction, every survival arc, every Messiah story, all of it traces back to this moment. House of M is the most consequential 3 words in Marvel history. Civil War, 2006. A group of inexperienced heroes called the New Warriors were filming a reality TV show when a battle went wrong. A villain named Nitro exploded near a school in Stamford, Connecticut. 600 people died. 60 of them were children. The government responded with the Superhero Registration Act. Every powered individual must register with the government, reveal their secret identity, and operate under federal oversight. Tony Stark said yes. It's time to be accountable. Steve Rogers said no. This is how freedom dies. The Marvel Universe split. Every hero chose a side. Friends fought each other. Teams fractured. Peter Parker, in one of the most dramatic moments of his career, unmasked live on television, revealing Peter Parker to the world. Captain America surrendered when he saw that the battle was causing more civilian casualties than it was preventing. And then, on the steps of a courthouse, he was shot. Steve Rogers, Captain America, died from an assassin's bullet after giving himself up to stop the war. Tony Stark became director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Bucky Barnes took the shield. The world changed completely. Civil War worked because it wasn't really about superheroes. It was about surveillance, security, freedom, and accountability. All the conversations America was having in 2006 in the real world. Miller just dressed them in capes.
Secret Invasion, 2008. The Skrulls, Marvel's shape-shifting alien species, had been replacing Earth's heroes with sleeper agents. Not recently, for years. Spider-Woman, Black Bolt, Hank Pym, dozens of others. The people fighting alongside Earth's heroes were Skrulls, living those lives, gathering intelligence, waiting. When the invasion went live, a Skrull ship crash-landed in the Savage Land, and out walked classic heroes, the real versions, people who'd been held captive for years while their copies lived their lives. Nobody knew who to trust. Were the heroes who just walked out of that ship the real ones? Or were they Skrulls programmed to think they were real? The invasion was stopped, but not by a hero. Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, leading a Thunderbolt squad, shot the Skrull Queen on live television. On camera, in front of the world. He became America's hero overnight, and the government handed him the keys to national security. The most dangerous man in the Marvel Universe now had the most powerful job in the world, and everybody cheered. Dark Reign and Siege, 2008 to 2010. With Osborn in power, Marvel flipped the entire universe inside out. The Dark Avengers assembled, villains wearing hero identities, operating publicly, funded by the government. Bullseye wore Hawkeye's costume, Venom wore Spider-Man's, Daken wore Wolverine's claws, and Osborn himself wore a hybrid of Iron Man's armor and Captain America's flag, the Iron Patriot. For over a year, real heroes operated underground while killers called themselves Avengers on television. Osborn's obsession eventually reached breaking point. He convinced himself that Asgard, which Thor had rebuilt hovering above Broxton, Oklahoma, was a threat to national security. He launched a military invasion. That overreach was his end. Thor fought back. Steve Rogers returned from his time-displaced death. The real heroes emerged. Osborn was arrested, and the Sentry, one of the most powerful heroes in the Marvel Universe, whose dark side called itself the Void, finally lost control completely and was put down by Thor. Siege is 4 issues. It reads in one sitting, and it paid off 2 full years of storytelling with an emotional satisfaction that made the Dark Reign era feel completely worth it. The heroic age began. For the first time in 6 years, Marvel felt optimistic again. Avengers vs. X-Men, 2012. By 2012, the mutant population had been at 198 for 7 years, and now something was coming that could change everything. The Phoenix Force, a cosmic entity of pure creation and destruction, was heading back to Earth. Specifically, it was heading for Hope Summers, the first mutant born after M-Day, who the X-Men believed could use it to restart the mutant species. The Avengers wanted to stop it before it arrived. They'd seen what the Phoenix did to Jean Grey. Cyclops refused to let them near Hope. The war between Avengers and X-Men began. Iron Man attempted to destroy the Phoenix in space with a specialized weapon. Instead, he split it into 5 fragments, and they attached to 5 X-Men. Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, Colossus, Magic. The Phoenix Five became gods overnight, ending wars, providing food and energy globally, creating what looked like a utopia. Then the power started consuming them. One by one, their pieces of the Phoenix were absorbed into fewer and fewer hosts, until Cyclops held it all. And with the power of a Dark Phoenix, Scott Summers killed Professor Charles Xavier. Hope and Scarlet Witch, whose No More Mutants had started all of this, combined their power to take the Phoenix from Cyclops and use it to reignite the mutant X gene globally. New mutants were born worldwide. M-Day was over. But Cyclops went to prison as a murderer. He was never the same character again. So there it is.
40 years of Marvel blowing up its own universe, on purpose, for a reason. Drop a comment. Which of these hit you hardest? And if you want more deep dives into comics history, subscribe because this is exactly what we do. See you in the next one.